Wagwan broski. Today I decided to do my final preparations and get ender pearls so I can go to the end and kill the dragon. Whilst I'm doing that, I wanted to talk a little bit about a topic that I've came across on my doom scrolling session, and it was the topic of being alone versus being lonely. Now, alone and lonely are two different, are about the same word, but they have different calibers and meanings. And I want to start off with being alone and then with being lonely. Urban Dictionary defines alone, it means to have no one by your side, you're just by yourself. Whereas lonely is defined as one of the saddest feelings possible. It can be from not having a partner, not having friends, or not having either. A lonely person can be very sad and won't have anyone to comfort them. It can be hard to break out of loneliness. Some people are lonely for years at a time, or maybe just one night. Now, why did I want to go deeper into this topic? From my last video, I described one of my worst periods when I was in secondary school during the summer of year 10. And it was one of the worst and most depressing summers I've ever had. And that is what I would describe as a lonely summer. I had no friends, and I was keen on having friends, which I lacked at that point. And what I would say in this topic specifically is being lonely is one of the worst things you can have. It's mentally draining. You're always stuck with your thoughts. Not saying that that is a bad thing, but being stuck with your thoughts in general is a very sick thing to go through as someone who's alone all the time. So, what I recall from that summer is I didn't, because I was much younger, I was lucky enough to not have that much thought. I kind of just brain rotted away. But when you grow up, so once I grew up now and I'm talking about this, I kind of remember of having those late night sleeps and you just stare at the ceiling and you just think, wow, I am lonely as and you can do one of two things is you can either try and change it by, going out with family or friends. Okay, you can ignore the friends part because by then I didn't have that much friends from school, but you can try and go out more with family and cousins. Try and do a sport, do a do an activity. And what I would recommend anyone that feels lonely is trying to reach out to any family members. I do understand that it feels more comfortable to talk to someone that's not family, but that is your best second option because you don't want to keep yourself entrapped into that circle where you just keep suffering and suffering. However, being alone is a choice. Now, what I mean by being alone is we saw from the definition is that you don't have no one by your side and you're just by yourself. And the difference between that and being lonely is that you know you have people that can back you up. And this is one of the things that you need to develop once you become more mature in your life. You're going to come across times where you're not going to be able to communicate with a lot of people and you're going to be alone most of that time with your thoughts. You can have one of two options on how you deal with your thoughts whenever you are alone. And it's A, you can make them consume you, you can make them eat you alive, and you don't have any choice on what you can and cannot do with yourself. You're gonna end up thinking about a lot of stuff at night. Are human and you make mistakes. You shouldn't worry about these types of mistakes. Or B, you can train yourself to be more open to your mistakes. And I read this quote, don't remember who said it specifically, and it goes, your mistakes made you the person you are. You are not a prisoner to them. You shouldn't imprison yourself on what you could and could have not done correctly in a situation. Being alone, in my opinion, is a very nice feeling. Now, I told you already about being lonely in that summer, but after I grew up a little bit and I finished sixth form and currently studying in university, you're gonna have to get used to being on your own. And if you don't discover what you do and don't like about yourself, you wouldn't be comfortable being alone all of the time. You're gonna always look towards the best next thing around you on whoever is free. If you wanna go out, and there's nothing wrong with trying to meet with friends and have conversation with people like that. But you need to have some time for yourself. They say the relationships that fail the most are the relationships when both people don't have alone time. You need to have some time where you think about your choices and what you've done. It's like a review that you do. So you know how you have those reviews on what you've done in the day, at the end of the day, and you say, oh, I did this, I did that, and I could do this, I could do that. You're supposed to have these conversations every month, a few times every month, on what you've done so far in a week instead of every day. The everyday thing happens naturally, but having those thoughts of the last year or the last few months on what you've been going through, if you don't have that type of conversation with yourself, you're not going to get used to it. And the other thing that is great about being alone is you get to discover yourself. Whenever you're around people, you base your personality on being around them. And that's one thing I did when I was in my last year in secondary school. I tried to fit in with as many people as I wanted. I met as many people as I can, as I mentioned in the last video, but I didn't have those deep interactions with people. If you don't keep real to yourself, you always end up being the people that you are around. They're gonna shape your personality. You don't have your own personality. Whenever you're alone, you can develop that personality and you can know what you like and you don't like about yourself and how you can improve that. So, if I were to recommend anything to anyone that's listening, it's get used to being more alone than lonely. Because if you are lonely, try to reach out, to anyone, even if it's a phone call to a family member, it can help you get closer to people and you're being honest to them about what you're going through. Be more trustworthy with these people specifically. And if you're alone, and try to be a bit more alone and getting used to being alone, more used to being alone, because we spend most of our days being alone. And if you don't know how to handle yourself being alone, you will never discover your true self. And this follows my regrets in high school is I thought it was cringe to be myself, but I was never being myself in that situation. I was just trying to fit in with the different personalities of friends that I've had. One personality was just being loud, one personality was just being trying to be nonchalant. Turn off the phone, go out on a walk, maybe put on a little bit of music, or maybe not, and have those conversations with yourself. Why you are who you are, or why do you do what you do? That can help you find your purpose. Thank you for listening to my thoughts and my yap. I know it seems that I don't care, but it really does help me a lot to just vent to people. I don't want to just exhaust my friends and family by just talking about this type of stuff. I do want to just talk to random people that I've never met before that are interested about these stuff. It's a win-win for everyone. It's a win for me. It's a win for my family and friends too. And if this video did help you out in any way, shape, or form, you can help me out by liking and subscribing to the channel. It can really help push out the content to people who need this type of advice in their life. Hope you enjoyed this yap session, and I'll see you until next time.